This was the line to get into Vice President Kamala Harris's rally in Glendale, Arizona tonight. Not making this up. This is the actual line. No edits here. Just keeps on going and going and going. Yesterday, the Cook Political Report moved the key swing state of Arizona from a rating of leans Republican to toss-up. And one look at the size of that crowd showed up to see Kamala Harris speak tonight really speaks volumes, helps you understand why. The Harris campaign estimates that more than 15,000 people showed up to see her and Governor Tim Walz tonight. All week, Harris has drawn massive crowds, 12,000 in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, 14,000 in Philadelphia, 15,000 in Detroit, and tonight more than 15,000 in Arizona. People all across the country are legitimately excited about Kamala Harris. Some of it's organic. Some of it is relief about the angst around Joe Biden, and some of it is a new campaign strategy. Since taking her place at the top of the ticket, Harris has changed the Democratic ticket's messaging strategy entirely. As people close to Harris told NBC News today, gone are Joe Biden's dark warnings about the life and death stakes for American democracy. While Harris understands that threat, she's choosing to focus the messaging of her campaign on freedom and joy. Freedom and joy. Let's take those two things one at a time. As a member of Harris's team told NBC News, Harris thinks freedom is an easier way for people to understand how they're being personally impacted. Freedom is an easier way to understand what it means for democracy to be under threat. What that means practically is that Harris has started speaking less about the threat that Trump poses to democracy and more about the freedom for kids to read the books they want to read, freedom for women to control their own bodies, and the freedom to be safe from gun violence. So in terms of content, Harris wants her campaign's messaging to be optimistic and focused on a world with more freedoms, not fewer. And people close to her told NBC that Harris is, quote, committed to running what she calls a joyful campaign.
So it's so good to be back in Arizona, and I thank you all for turning out today. This is an extraordinary, extraordinary thing. And Arizona, I'll also say this, as exciting as this is, we cannot lose sight of a really important fact. We are definitely running as the underdog. We are the underdog. We are out in great numbers, but we got a lot of work to do. And this is going to be hard work, but I know we like hard work. Hard work is good work for all of us. Hard work is good work. And we will do it with joy.
And we will do it with joy. Not a way you hear Donald Trump ending his speeches. Now, I want you to compare that energy that you just heard and that message to Trump. This is how Trump kicked off his latest set of public remarks yesterday.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate your being here. Just a statement before I talk about debates. I think that our country is right now in the most dangerous position it's ever been in from an economic standpoint, from a safety standpoint. We have a lot of bad things coming up. You could end up in a depression of the 1929 variety, which would be a devastating thing. Took many years, took decades to recover from it. And we're very close to that, and we're very close to a world war.
We're going to talk a lot about economics later in the show, but the point here is that while Trump and his campaign are preaching that this is the end of days, Harris's strategy is to contrast that. While Trump wants people to be angry about some nebulous dark future in which America is overrun by criminal immigrants, Harris is trying to excite Americans about the future that our country could have. It's not just the top of the ticket where this contrast is that sharp.
The one thing that I will not forgive them for is they try to steal the joy from this country. They try and steal the joy. But you know what? You know what? Our next president brings the joy. She emanates the joy.
Tim Walz speaking at a rally in Detroit on Wednesday. You might remember that Donald Trump's running mate, Senator J.D. Vance, was also in Detroit on Wednesday. And while he was there, a Fox News reporter pitched him this softball. Listen to the question and to Vance's response.
Criticized as being a little too serious, maybe angry sometimes. What makes Smile. What makes you happy?
Well, I smile at a lot of things, including bogus questions from the media, man. I mean, look, I think if you watch a full speech that I give, I actually am having a good time out here, and I'm enjoying this. But look, sometimes you got to take the good with the bad. And right now, I am angry about what Kamala Harris has done to this country and done to the American southern border.
There's that fear again. No time to smile when you're preparing for the border invasion. Now, just in full disclosure here, I have to admit, as someone who has spent years covering the threat to our democracy that the MAGA movement and the big lie pose, the idea of not forefronting that aspect of this election surprised me. But today, the historian Ruth Ben-Ghiat, on whom I rely heavily for her expertise, which is the history of authoritarianism and fascist movements, circulated something that she wrote years ago that also surprised me. It was an article she wrote about how Chile won back its democracy from the authoritarian dictator Augusto Pinochet. Quote, "Hope may seem a flimsy thing to wield against autocracy, but it is the secret weapon of resistance and an essential lever of action," end quote. In 1988, Chile held a referendum to decide whether the dictator Augusto Pinochet would remain in power. Pinochet's military junta had destroyed voting registries and intimidated the public through force. But rather than focusing on the fear, the pro-democracy opposition focused on the joy. Their slogans were "Joy is coming" and "Happiness is a rainbow." They ran ads featuring soccer stars and ordinary people expressing hope for Chile's future, which was a daring thing to do in 1988. Pinochet's ads, in contrast, repeated the old talking points about the threat from leftists, and it harped on grievance and loss. Terror, in the end, was all the regime had. The courage of Chile's citizens to get out the vote and the power of their positive messaging created the momentum to remove Pinochet from power. Now, again, let's be really clear before anybody clips that and puts it on the internet. Donald Trump is not Pinochet. Pinochet had already killed tens of thousands of his own people by the time he was kicked out of office. But joy was effective in the face of that kind of brutality. So here in the U.S. today, with Vice President Harris facing off against an opponent who is consumed by vengeance and rage and authoritarian instincts, a man who has already tried to overthrow an election and seems to be laying the groundwork to try to do so again, what should we make of the strategy of countering that threat with joy?